So Brandon, I want to talk to you though.
Okay.
You walked away. You voted for Trump.
Yes.
Will you still vote for Trump?
Well, I want to keep my options open for whatever
Ron
is coming
DeSantis,
down
maybe.
I'm a big Ron DeSantis fan.
So let's pull this up real quick. We have this from Timcast.com. Trump and DeSantis are now tied as 2024 frontrunners on Predict It. So Predict It, of course, is people can buy shares essentially in who they think they're going to win. Well, what do you think? First, you want to keep your options open, you said.
Well, all I mean is that he has to announce. I mean, that's the whole thing. Is he going to announce or not? I mean, I think that most people think that he is.
Definitely.
So, I mean, if he announces if he announces, I don't think that anyone can take him, nor do I think that Ron DeSantis will even run if he announces. So in that scenario, definitely.
Would you vote for him if he runs?
Yes.
Yeah. Would you vote for him even if he shot someone on Fifth Avenue?
It's a real question.
Probably. Yeah, honestly. I mean,
got him.
But, I think that a lot of people are very excited about DeSantis right now. I definitely think I don't like a lot of what I'm seeing on the Trump side in terms of the devotion. Like, I get it when he was in office. I even get it when he was running because he was so different. I think that he got it. He understood the concerns of the American people at a time when people feel like America's being sold out and they needed a hero. And I think that he was that hero, for a really long time. But at this point, because people I think are so desperate about how the 2020 election went and how things currently are in this country, there are factions within the Trump community that are becoming cultish. And you're not allowed.
MAGA.
You're not allowed to criticize him. You're not allowed to ask questions. You're not allowed to express a disfavorable opinion about anything that he does. And then, now we are becoming the thing that the left has said, if that's what it's going to be. I don't want to be. I will not be a part of a cult. So if I'm not allowed to criticize Trump, or if I'm not allowed to question decisions that he makes, like endorsing Dr. Oz, or but if I'm not allowed to say that, then I am out. Because I'm not going to be a part of that culture.
No, but you can still vote for Trump. Look.
Yeah, I will. But there's a difference between going in and voting for him and being really outspoken and endorsing. And, I think that I influenced a lot of people to come around to him in 2020.
For sure. The hardcore Trump supporters really do not like me because I won't support Trump's narrative on the election fraud stuff because I just think look, I think the issue is you need to discuss what happened in 2020 in a methodical way. The problem is a lot of people push these extreme stories about, servers in Germany and watermarked ballots. I look forward to sitting down with former President Trump because we're planning on, getting an interview with him. Hopefully, no guarantees. It'd be an honor and a privilege. But I would like to ask him, Mr. President, did you watermark any ballots? And when he says no, I'll be like, okay. See, this is the issue that YouTube is banning people for. They're banning people for those wild stories about secret behind-the-scenes missions. And what needs to be expressed is that Time magazine ran an article saying the shadow campaign to fortify the election or to save the election. And you talk about how rules were changed, about election laws, about universal mail-in voting, and the process that took over a year that resulted in a defeat. So Donald Trump can come out and say all of these things, but if he says it in a way where he's talking about those things, then you've got no problem. The issue is there's a lot of people who want to believe the craziest scenarios because they can't admit that people were willing to vote for Joe Biden destroying this country because they hated Trump so much. And I think that's what happened. I think there's obvious BS that we saw. We saw videos. There's Bill Barr said there was fraud, but just not enough of it. I think we saw unconstitutional voting rules. This literally happened in Pennsylvania where a judge ruled the voting law change was unconstitutional, but only after the fact.
Right.
Those things happened. Okay, like that. You focus on that stuff, and you stay away from the more conspiratorial stuff. Now, my point here: most people are referring to that stuff and not the weird conspiracy stuff.
Right.
YouTube will conflate all of it. And the media will conflate all of it so that when you're trying to talk to people, they don't understand what you're trying to say.
Yeah, it's like psychological surgery where if you make a mistake, the patient will die. And that's how the censors are treating this conversation. You have to be extremely, accurate and, I don't know, there's other words for it, but direct and focused and intentional when you're communicating about this election fraud in general. I mean, it's a huge conversation. It's an important conversation.
Yeah, but the whole situation, the whole question around the election, I guess I'll put it that way, is I think one of the most prime examples of what has caused Trump people to be Trump people in the first place. I mean, this enormous sect of people in this country who just get rolled over. They're not listened to. They're not respected. People treat them like they don't exist. And we know that at minimum, he got 74 million people to come out and vote for him, which is enormous. That's huge. But those 74 million people, at minimum, are treated like their concerns don't matter. Right. And I have to say, look, if it was literally the other way around and there were 74 million Biden voters who were outraged and thought the election was fixed, I'd say, let's put their mind at ease. Let's settle this.
That's what happened with Hillary Clinton.
Because I don't want this divide.
Well, and I just want to mention, it's not just that they're told that their concerns don't matter. They are told that they have the most abhorrent, racist, sexist, bigoted concerns you could ever possibly have. They're basically neo-Nazis. They're horrible people who should be excluded from public life if they ever have the audacity to voice any of their actual opinions about anything.
But I guess my point is that this was never worked through. This was never settled at all.
Yeah.
And in fact, even the people on the left who I think in a very sort of elitist and mocking way address the people who have concerns on the right. You know, they say there's no substantial evidence that this happened. This has all been discredited. By who?
Yeah.
And when? No, I mean, really, and I don't
By
understand.
people who would never have wanted it to be true.
Why would you not want to validate and verify that you won? That doesn't make any sense to me. Rub it in our faces. Rub it in our faces.
I mean, I just can assume, and I assume fear. They're afraid that if they do the right thing, that they'll end up losing, and then that will be the end of the world.
I don't know about that.
That's a drastic fear-based idea.
I'm wondering where the Arizona audit stuff went. A lot of the stuff that came out, people were like, Tim, why don't you talk about the Arizona stuff? I'm like, we did, like 5 times. Like, we had like multiple guests on who went through the data. We actually sat down with them. And then when the stuff from Arizona comes out, it's the same stuff we already talked about. And I was like, what am I supposed to say to this? And then they disappear. And I'm just like, they were checking for watermarks and stuff. And I was like, guys, people want to believe that the world is something more than it is. I got news for everybody. The world is boring. There is no cabal. You have people like Bill Gates for sure. But I've been to Davos, not for the actual World Economic Forum, but I was in the peripheral events where people were setting up. I've met with powerful politicians and ultra wealthy individuals, and they're clueless half the time. They're just powerful. So when they have a whim, they do something crazy. I don't think that there is beneath the streets of DC, hooded figures are meeting and having these conversations. I know I'm being a little facetious. I don't think that they secretly meet together. I think it's overt. I think they're meeting at Bilderberg. They're meeting at the World Economic Forum. Mm-hmm. They broadcast what they're saying from the World Economic Forum to the world. When it comes to what happens with Trump, they wrote a news article in Time magazine about what they did. And it was a lot of new voter rules. It was a lot of get out the vote stuff. Mm-hmm. It was nefarious behind the scenes, big tech billionaires and things like that. And it's all out in the open. It's all known how they did this to Trump to fortify the election.
Yeah, but what's not out in the open or known is what the Dominion servers tallied. It's proprietary, and they did it behind the scenes and then told us what it said, and we just had to take them at face value. If we're going to fortify this election for real, we need some sort of like third gap where our votes are put on a blockchain and they can be observed.
Ian, about Dominion, you're right.
Thank you, Tim. It's good to see you again, man.
We don't know a proprietary voting machine. We don't know what's on it. So I can certainly see if people are upset about that. My response immediately is open source, publicly available code for our voting systems. Like, how could a private company control that? That's insane to me. I'm not saying anything nefarious happened. I just don't know because it's private.
Right. That's interesting you guys just brought this up because I was actually just about to say it wasn't even for me some of the more I don't know what words to use because I don't want to offend anybody, but kind of more on the fringe theories about what went wrong in the election, the watermarks, and some people really went pretty far with the Dominion stuff, in my opinion. That was never it for me. I wasn't really subscribing to, or that to me was not like the key thing. To me, it was the stuff like governors changing voting laws and manipulating the pandemic, which is not the process you're supposed to go through to change voting laws. It's supposed to go through the legislatures. And then they had things like, well, we're going to extend, people can mail them in, and we're going to accept the mail-in until this date. Well, they were counting ballots that came in 3 days or more after the date. And then a lot of people said they came in, they didn't have signatures. That's not okay. The signatures didn't match or weren't recognized. Well, that's not okay. So my question was only, how many of those ballots did you count that didn't have signatures, or the signatures didn't match, or they came in after the due date, or you know what I mean?
This is the issue for me too, right? We saw a lot of that. I think the universal mail-in voting stuff gives a massive advantage to Democrats. We saw Republicans in Georgia and Pennsylvania basically aligned with the Democrat proposals on change to voter rules. In Pennsylvania, it was Republicans who actually did a deal with Democrats to create universal mail-in voting, despite what the laws actually permitted in the Constitution. And so I think the issue is, those are really great points. I think we need to have an investigation, a conversation around that. The problem is the media will exploit the fringe of the conspiracies to discredit any legitimate questions around what concerns we have in the election.
Well, but another question I have too is, why don't we have a forensic audit of every election? I mean, why does it have to? And why don't we all agree on the rules ahead of time, no matter what happens, and just say after this election is complete, this is the way in which it can be investigated so that both sides feel satisfied.
In 2016, they were claiming that Russians hacked voting machines. Like Seamus brought that up.
Well, so I don't know of any specific media conglomerate that said that was the case, but they were thrilled to be misunderstood as saying that every time they said the phrase Russian election interference or Russian interference.
There are people who genuinely believed that. They were claiming
50% of Democrats polled believed that Russia literally hacked our voting machines.
And they repeatedly said that Trump was illegitimate and all that stuff, and that was all allowed. And they spent tens of millions of dollars investigating this nonsense. Then when Trump comes out and says something like, it's a big lie, and I'm like, dude, so was yours. If you want unity in this country, then how about we have the Dominion probe, like the Mueller probe or whatever. But they won't do that. It's a double standard. And this is what's gutting the country and tearing it apart, is that if you have all of these Hillary voters who are freaking out and screaming, they got their probe. It jammed up Trump for 2 years. Then Trump comes out, he's angry, his supporters are all angry, and they say, nah, we're not going to return the favor. Well, that's how you shred this country in half. Thanks for checking out this segment from the Timcast IRL podcast. If you want to watch live, you can check out this channel Monday through Friday at 8 p.m. And don't forget to smash that like button, subscribe to this channel, and if you want more unfiltered and uncensored content with all of these guests, go to timcast.com and become a member. All of these guests you know and love in exclusive segments on our website where we are unrestricted in what we talk about, so you'll definitely not want to miss it. Thanks for hanging out. We'll see you all next time.